I don't know if we won a game against either team. So why the hell did you ask me that question in the middle of the summer, Andy?
And welcome everyone to a Big Ten Network chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by three prominent head coaches in the Big Ten. Tom Izzo from Michigan State, the Hall of Famer, Mark Turgeon from Maryland, and Matt Painter from Purdue. Tom, this has been a year like none other in any of our lives. And so this summer, finally, all of you had a chance to work with your players after last summer when you couldn't. So if we can just sort of, as our first topic, bounce around our little room here about what it was like to actually work with your players in the summer.
Well, I think for us, we got back to a little bit of normalcy. That's work with your players and get on the road recruiting. As you said, two things that couldn't do as much of last summer, but I thought it was great. I think the guys were excited about being back, and we took it like most summer, a little more laissez-faire as far as not grinded the weight room part of it, but not the we didn't do any defensive stance drills or anything like that. We just kind of put in some things and enjoyed it a little bit, but it was good. It was great.
Yeah, we it felt great to be back to normal. We approached it a little bit different than Tom. We got 9 new guys here, so we had to put in a few of our defensive drills and bring the guys along a little bit. But it felt normal. It felt great. No mask while you're coaching, and it was a really fun summer. I missed it, and summers are important, as these coaches know.
Yeah. For us, it was a great summer. We had some injuries. We got everybody healthy now. We had 3 guys play in the U19 games. I think it was a great experience for them, but they weren't around for about a month. And like I said, we had a couple other guys injured. So we try to get a lot done in the summer together. I think, if you recruit the right guys, they're going to put in their own time on their game, and just trying to really talk to them about the right things and just the functionality of playing structured basketball. I think that gets lost a lot of times in recruiting. That's why it's so hard for young players to be good in college. And it's really hard for young players to be good in the NBA because, you have that transition. So just trying to help your freshmen kind of get acclimated, but also, they want to play. So just trying to help them with things that it's going to put them in a position, but also helping your experienced guys, keep a hold on their spot or their minutes or however you want to look at it. So if you can get that competitive piece, it really helps out all of us.
So Matt, what was recruiting like in the few times you were able to go out where you're dealing with a world where in all your respective campuses, you can control it much more than when you went out, and obviously there was a mini outbreak at Peach Jam. I mean, various places, you're kind of not sure who's back and who's not and what their protocols are, but you got to go out and look. What was recruiting like this summer?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We had commitments. So in 2 classes, we had 4 commitments, and really just looking for really one kind of position in that 22 class. So shorter windows. So I felt like I was going just to see those guys more than really evaluating other people, even though we are evaluating other people. I just didn't see as much. Probably our assistants saw a lot more than I did. But I wanted to make sure that, the guys that have committed to us end up coming to Purdue. I think that's an important piece, even more now, is building that relationship, keeping that relationship, and making sure the guys in your program and the guys coming to your program, stay put. And that's going to be so important for all of us, just to try to be able to do that. But it was still good just to get back on the road and get out and see some guys.
Mark and Tom?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm jealous of Matt. He had those commitments out there. I was out there grinding, quite a bit. We were out a lot. We were out 5 out of 6 weekends in a row, and then they had the NBA camp with some, for a couple of days after that. So it was a lot. It was good. You just had to follow the protocol. Some gyms you had to wear a mask, some gyms you didn't. You just did what you had to do to be out, but it was good. There was a lot of good parts of it, and then there was a lot of bad memory parts too, all the traveling and seeing the same guy play, 20 games or whatever. You see too much sometimes, but it was good to be out. Actually, it was really good. Like, I spent one game sitting next to Tom at Peach Jam and catching up with him and he had a big wedding this, summer in his family, and just talking about those kind of things. I miss that, just being around guys. Mark Few and I are good friends, seeing him on the road, hadn't seen him for a while. So, things like that are always great too, to be around your coaching peers and your buddies, and learn a lot, ask them what they're doing and coaching what they're doing with their program and how they're handling NIL, which I'm sure we'll get to, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a chance to get out and talk to a lot of coaches also.
Well, I'd agree with that. On both of them, what they said, it's, I'm not sure though, in Matt's case, that we're ever going to be not recruiting a lot of guys anymore, because either we got guys going pro, we got guys transferring, we got, so many different variables. It's a little trickier right now. But I'm anxious to see how many of us just say, we'll recruit the kids we want to recruit, and if we don't get them, we'll go into the portal. I don't plan on hopefully not doing that. It's not where I want to live, but you got to do what you got to do, as we all know. And we're all going to be throwing some curveballs on this. I thought Matt's point about, we got to make sure the relationship with our own kids. If there's one thing I've stressed to my assistants, in fact, I had each one of them go out and visit a couple families back at their homes, just to try to encourage the relationship, the communication. Because not only didn't we get to communicate very well for a year, but because everybody was in such arms, but I think it's going to be difficult now, keeping an eye on everybody when people will be telling them transfer here and there. I think the relationship is going to be big.
Mark, one thing that I remember we talked about last year that stuck with me about you, what you thought might stay through this period and hopefully a post-COVID world, is using this format for recruiting, where you could sit in your office, your home, and visit with a kid in Lithuania, a kid in California, a kid in Texas, and you can have everyone on the Zoom, the AU coach, the high school coach, administrator at their high school, whoever. You can have everyone here in one little space, save money, and certainly save time. I mean, I'm curious now, a year later, how much you think that aspect of recruiting could stick?
Well, I think it'll stay a little bit. Overseas kids, we actually did a few Zooms in August with some guys that we weren't on before the July recruiting period, and got a chance to, give them a little spill on Zoom. So I hope it stays. I think the time where it'd be great is in April, when the season ends. We go out for those 2 weekends and see kids. Then we're allowed to go into the schools or homes the next week. And you really don't know who you're involved with at that time. You're looking at some young kids. I'm hoping the Zoom, I think it will, at Maryland it will, we'll keep the Zooms in. I think it's a really efficient way and a cost-saving way on the budget to get some things done and really see where you are with young people.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think it'll hold. I think it's, you don't have to make a trip sometimes to figure out if there's some interest on the other end. You can, like Turge said, you can give your spiel, you can talk about it, you can say, hey, you guys have interest, and then that next step is them coming to campus or you going to see them, and sometimes you get there and you make that trip and you go out there, then all of a sudden by the time you land and get back home, they give you the thanks but no thanks. And so just trying to kind of eliminate those, like Turge mentioned, like a couple kids they jumped in on. This isn't somebody that they recruited for 2 years, and that happens. Those guys you recruit for 2 years sometimes go other places. And now people don't understand that about what we do. We're not selecting all the time. We're not drafting. We're recruiting. And we know who we need to get, but sometimes we can't get them. So now, how do you navigate from that point? And I think, especially from a distance, I think the Zooms will stick, but I don't think it'll be the backbone of our recruiting.
Yeah, I'd agree with both of them. I've said all along on all the committees I've been on, there's just no sense in seeing a kid 15 times. And I think we do have to get out to see a kid in person a couple times as far as play. But boy, when you can get things done on this, I can't believe in cost cutting alone it wouldn't be important. And hell, it'll help Matt now that nobody's going to want to go to West Lafayette knowing there's hurricanes there. So that'll help us and Turge. But I do think that it's been good. I mean, I have learned something. There's something about it that's good, but sometimes you need body language. You need to be in a room. You need to see people. So I'm agreeing with them that I think recruiting wise, you got to see some guys in person, not on film. but I think you can get a lot of film work done too. And I think as far as meeting parents and that, we could save a ton of money and a ton of time. And we don't want to be out in April because we come back and half our team's gone to the transfer portal. So those are the things that I think would help that.
All right, let's spin forward to what, is going to be another unprecedented year with so many changes, but I'm just curious first. So now we're dealing with the Delta variant and we're sort of in this middle ground. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're in a much better place. There's vaccine mandates, FDA approved Pfizer. So things are moving in the right direction. Every campus is different. Every state is handling it differently. Matt, I'll start with you. What's going to be life like as practice starts in terms of masking, mandate?
Right.
See what the Big Ten is saying in terms of, hey, if you can't play now, we're not rescheduling. We're not going through gymnastics here to get
Right.
games in. If you can't go, it's either going to be both teams, are done, or one can't go, and that's a forfeit.
Right. Yeah, no, just, wearing masks inside buildings is what we're doing on our campus, and our whole program is vaccine. So, being able to really, go from last year and some of the things that we had to do, we're in a much better position, but like you said, we're not out of the woods yet, and just try to follow the protocol. I think we're living in a time where we try to argue over everything, and it's about everybody. It's just not about Purdue or Michigan State or Maryland. It's about everybody, and whatever your state says or whatever your institution says, just follow those guidelines. I think that's pretty simple.
Yeah, I think we'll just do the same. We'll follow the protocol. We're wearing masks inside right now. We don't have to wear them outside. It feels different. We're completely vaccine like Purdue. And I think most teams are. More and more, our campus will be, at a high percentage of vaccine if they want to go to class. So I don't know what that number will be, 80, 90% or whatever, but we'll follow it. I just hope we can have fans in the stands this year. I miss that. Some great arenas in the Big Ten, and playing in front of those fans really makes it special each and every night. And of course, our fan base is terrific. So we missed them. We lost more home games last year, I think the last 3 years combined. So we missed our fans. So I'm hoping that it keeps getting better. Everybody does what they need to do, follow the protocol, and then our fans will be able to be in the building.
Well said. We're going to try to do the same. We got to be wearing masks inside too right now for at least 6 weeks. I think in football, we have to wear them underneath, where the concession stands are. If we're in open air, I think we're mask free right now, hoping and praying everybody gets vaccinated. I do worry when I watch things in Florida or something, and the schools are going back and so many kids are getting it. I think it's great that we go to class, we have to be vaccinated, but I don't know if that includes parties and fraternity things and all those things. So still going to be a worry, especially when you're starting to see more young kids getting it. But we're going to do what the protocol is, and that's the way we've done it all year. It's going to be better than it was last year, hopefully a lot better.
Yeah, so just picking up on that on the fan issue, at this point in time, I know in football, everyone's planning on full stadiums. I think protocols will come in whether or not you have to be vaccinated or negative tests. I mean, I know we're starting to see a little of that out west. We'll see if it trickles into the Big Ten. What will it mean, Matt, if it's not full, which I think it will be, but even if it's, half or something better than what we had last year, what will that mean for the players and the staff to have some of that atmosphere back, at Mackey and in College Park and East Lansing?
Well, I think it's obviously everybody wants their fans to be back, but we also want to make great decisions. For our sophomores, that had to go through it that last year, they've never played, in those kind of environments. And I think for them, and that'll be an eye opener because, they were playing on the road or playing at home and there's, no fans. I think that's going to be a big piece because after you go through something for a year, you normally got a pretty good hang of things. That's why you see a lot of people make that big jump from a freshman to a sophomore year, but you also get that emotional piece of being on the road and get it out of your system. I think there's a lot of sophomores around in the country that just haven't experienced that yet. And so hopefully we can get it back to where it's full capacity because I think that's our strength. We've had the best attendance, in the country as a conference since 1976. And any coach that comes into our league, it's the first thing they talk about is like, hey, it's tough to win on the road everywhere. But when you get in this league, At times it's close to impossible to beat a good team on the road.
I'd agree. And, I think he's right about the freshmen. I mean, we're looking on campus and we're saying there could be, instead of 9,000, 10,000 freshmen that come in, it's really going to be 20,000, because it's not just the players, it's all these students that haven't experienced college life either. You worry a little bit, is it, going to go crazy? But I think that people do make the biggest jump between freshman and sophomore year, and it's going to be interesting to see how our guys handle it. But having fans in the stands is going to be priceless. I mean, we all love it. Us three love it more than most, because then we can yell at an official and he doesn't hear what we're saying, or our moms don't hear what we're saying back home. So it'll be a little easier.
All right, Tom, NIL. I know this is a great topic for all of you, but it's here. Got to embrace it. How do you navigate it?
Well, for me, I don't know how you navigate it yet. I mean, we've had some many things happen, nobody's offered me any money or my NIL, but, I guess embrace it. I'm going to stick with what I've stuck with the whole time. I'm not against the kid making money. I'm definitely, if they can make money, I'm worried about the unintended consequences of what that does. And I'm going to stick to that till I see it different. I'm just worried. I'm worried about, we all made no money. I'm looking at 3 guys that started out as GA. Hell, if you work at Eastern Illinois, you might not have made any money. I've been there a few times, and God love Eastern Illinois. But I mean, we've all been through those things, and it just scares me. I don't think it's going to be as big as you think. I think the fish stories, the minnow's going to become Moby Dick, that in recruiting you can make 20,000 here, 100,000 there, $1 million at Alabama or something. I don't know if all those things are going to be real, but anytime the kids, we can help them, I'm for it. Does it hurt them? It's like the transfer rule, does it help or hurt them? I need a little time before I really feel good about that.
Yeah, I think it's a long game. I think it's a marathon. We're just all trying to figure it out right now. We are embracing it, just like every coach has to embrace it. We're really limited on what we can do as coaches, which is nothing. And then it really comes down to the athlete embraces it. So like our biggest contract at Maryland so far has been a non-revenue sport athlete. And I think women are actually going to do pretty good in this from what I've seen so far with our Maryland athletes. So it's a long game. Kids are going to have to work. I just want it to be fair across the board. That's our biggest worry. There's a lot of things that come into this. And then there'll be a lot of other things you got to deal with. You just got to deal with them. One kid's getting 20,000, other kid's getting 2,000. Well, he's working harder at it or whatever. And then as coaches, you don't want it to interfere with practice and games. That's really what it comes down to. But we'll embrace it. We're all for it. It is today's world. It's, I think yesterday the things that I worked on in the office had really nothing to do with being a coach in basketball. It was kind of crazy, a whole different part of what we're getting into. But we're going to embrace it and play the long game and kind of see where it goes.
Hey, man, I thought Mark made a great point, which I think at the end of the day, when you make a commitment to Purdue, Maryland, Michigan State, that should be your first commitment. And whatever you do after, okay, fine. But you've made a commitment to show up at practice and show up at the games and do what you're supposed to do. And, because I saw this, I remember with BYU initially, they put out there sort of their do's and their don'ts. And if you go to BYU, you can't endorse alcohol as an example because you chose BYU. So you know what it's about with BYU. So that aspect, and by the way, you're probably going to have to play well. And if it comes January and you're not, that's kind of on you, the player. I mean, how, that aspect of it, that there still has to be that buy-in and that commitment from the player,
right?
Or they commit to whatever they're earning outside.
Yeah, it's the way it is. Like you have your priorities, you have your family, you have your religion, you have your academics, you have basketball. And I always say if a social piece leapfrogs any of those, you're in trouble. You start making your decisions that's leading from your social decisions and they leapfrog what's, more important than your own family, or your teammates or your academics or your future. You talk to these guys on the phone and you recruit them and they want to play professional basketball, but sometimes a lot of other things come into play and they have to keep their focus and they have to understand their priorities. So it's really along the same thing. You know, we're going to embrace it. All of us are going to embrace this. But the one thing they have to do is they have to understand, you know, why are you at college? You know, you're at college, you get a great education, become a great basketball player, hopefully win a lot of games. But I don't think there's a coach in America that's not going to embrace this and want those guys to make money. But we just, like Coach Izzo said, we don't want those unintended consequences where that becomes the focus. That's not the focus, even though we embrace it. Sometimes people look at those things like a contradiction. It's not a contradiction. You know, you have to be able to get locked in. Like if you're not locked in college basketball, there's too many good players. There just is. If you have distractions, there's just, you know, this right here needs to be a positive, and I think it will be.
All right, last two things, and I appreciate your time here. And I'm not, someone can criticize, oh, you're shilling for the name behind me, but the reality is both things can be true. The Big Ten was the best league last season during the regular season. The Big Ten did not do as well in the postseason. Just because you don't do as well in the postseason doesn't negate what happened in the regular season. And I will say that till the end of time. Both things can be true. Your thoughts, Tom, just on regular season versus postseason?
Well, I don't think anybody could argue, any coach in any conference, that last year.
Who will argue that?
They'd argue the regular season?
No. They're saying, oh, the Big Ten wasn't as good because what happened in the tournament? No.
Right. That's what we always do. And that we've had years when we weren't very good and we had two teams in the Final Four. So, you know, you can argue, but I always said this, even with the conference tournament, as much as I embrace that, when you go through those 20 games, and that's a test of time. And, you know, in some plays, winning the Big Ten last year was tougher than almost winning a national championship. I mean, there were times we had 5 teams in the top 10. The most Final Fours I've been at, you never have that. So the league, like Matt said, the attendance, the fans, doesn't matter where you go in this league. And I don't have to promote the league, it promoted itself. Hey, we were part of the problem in the NCAA tournament. We laid an egg, you know, we got, I guess, I don't know if it was upset, but that team ended up going pretty far in UCLA, you know. It's the same old problem for me. They played the damn game at Mackey and I can never win at Mackey. So that's the NCAA's fault. So I'll blame them. I thought Matt would give me his locker room and his coaching office. He didn't do that. So I'll blame Matt. But I think our league, I've been in this league for 37 years from GA on up. I think it was the best it's ever been in my era here. And there were some pretty good teams, but top to bottom, I mean, at the end, Nebraska was beating people. They got to be pretty good, you know. The league was great.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. And unfortunately, in our world today, a lot of it's about that tournament. And Tom's obviously been unbelievably successful in the NCAA tournament, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. And it's important. It's important to Maryland fans. We have to do better in our postseason. You know, we were lucky enough to win a game, but I thought our league was terrific. I thought the last 2 years, our league, and I've been in a lot of leagues. I haven't been in a league for 37 years, but I've been in a lot of leagues and coached for a long time. The last 2 years have been as good as any league I've ever coached in, top to bottom. The coaching is terrific. The venues are terrific, and the players just keep getting better and better. So hopefully this year, I think we're going to be one of the top 2 leagues again. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better in the postseason. I know we're equipped to be better in the postseason than we were last year. I think Matt's team was really young last year, really kind of overachieved during the regular season, which put the pressure on them when they got to the NCAA tournament that they weren't quite ready for. But they'll probably be a lot better this year in the NCAA tournament because of it. So it is what it is. It's the way the world works. But our league is terrific, and I brag all the time. It's the best league in the country now, and I truly believe that.
Yeah, just trying to learn from it, not to be redundant. I agree with what those guys said, and obviously we didn't do our part and lost in the first round. But just a great league, no nights off, and you know, we were the youngest team in the league last year, and I just told our guys in that locker room, like, you know, if this can lead to a big run the following year, then it's worth it. You know, you feel bad for those people that aren't in that locker room anymore, but we didn't have any seniors, so. You know, that hopefully that can drive us and we can be better, you know, because of it. But no, just feel very fortunate to be in this position to be able to coach in this league, and you get goosebumps. You know, you walk in places and like, you know, you got your travel party of about 30 and everybody is there is against you. So to be able to pull out some of those wins on the road and some of those venues, and if you can pull that off, you're going to get yourself prepared, you know, for postseason, even though it's a crapshoot. You know, it just is. When you get on a neutral court against somebody who's earned their way, you know, you're not in an exempt tournament where somebody didn't earn their way in there. Everybody in that tournament earned their way in there, and you're on that neutral court, and it's difficult. And so that's when you win those games and you advance, you better cherish it and get ready for that next one.
All right, real quick here, for each one of you, when you were scouting Michigan State and Maryland, Matt, what's the one thing for each school when you're looking at tape before you play them that you know you're going to have to deal with?
I'm a big believer in trying to beat somebody the way they are. And I would always say that about Bo Ryan at Wisconsin. Like, if you think you're going to walk in there and you're going to set the tempo, you've lost your mind. Like, you got to be better. And I believe that both of those teams are tough. Both of those teams defend. Both those teams rebound that you're talking about in Michigan State and Maryland. And that's what I tell them, you know, just save our money if you don't plan on being tough. Just save our money if you don't plan on rebounding. And we'll just stay at home. You know, they can forfeit the game because you have no chance of winning if you're not tougher than those teams. That kind of holds true. That's kind of the staple for any successful team in our league too. We kind of get a little bit of pushback about it. Go watch an NBA game and see how physical it is and see if you can play in that game. I think our league prepares guys to play at that next level because how demanding and how tough it is. But that's what you come to find out when you lose a lot of games, you come to find some things out. And that's, you know, the teams that have been at the top of our league, like a Michigan State, like a Maryland, like a Wisconsin, Ohio State, you know, Michigan, you know, you have to be able to be better at those constants than they are. And if you're not, you have no chance, especially if you're on the road.
All right, Mark, Michigan State and Purdue, what are you seeing?
Well, first of all, I've learned a lot from both these guys. They're not only two of the best coaches in the Big Ten, they're two of the best coaches in the country. I've watched Matt, like he said about the Wisconsin thing, how he coaches a certain style against every team in the league. Now they get new coaches in the league and he'll have to adapt to that, but I've watched that with him. You know, with Matt, Purdue's teams, you got to be locked in defensively because they run so many sets. You better be great at post defense. You better be able to rotate quickly out of things defensively against them. And then you got to earn it, man. They guard you and they guard the ball. You just don't beat guys off the dribble when you play Purdue. So you got to screen well and do things well that way. And then Tom's teams are, there's no one tougher physically and mentally than Michigan State. And if you, like Matt said, if you don't show up physically ready and mentally ready, you're going to get your butt kicked. And, we have a few times against them, but I get fired up to coach against these two guys. I think they're two of the best in the country. So I'm always a little bit more excited when I coach against these guys.
Tom?
Well, it's interesting. What Matt said was so true in my first couple of years. I think I always say I got to have a team that can beat you 90 to 80, and we can beat somebody 55 to 49, And when we won the national championship, we beat Wisconsin for the first time, your alma mater, because you didn't give enough money back to the university, but we beat them 55 to 50 or something. And then 2 nights later, we beat, Florida running team. So I do like the versatility, and Matt's team, everything they said. I think there's a reason we're all been in the top of the league for a while because defense and toughness are important to us. In Matt's team, we couldn't handle Williams, a kid from our own state. He just was dynamite. They played through him. He's a great passer. And their guard play just kept getting better, and they were young and kept getting better. And Turgeon's team, we really struggled with them last year. We just couldn't even be in the game with them, kind of. And the guard play, I think, hurt us. And, guards were physical and tough. And we weren't maybe the normal us team that was physical and tough. So I think both of them, I agree with that. It's fun to go against guys that, aren't cheating, doing it the right way, work their tail off, and their teams are going to be well prepared. And those are the games that help you as you move into the tournament. But the versatility that I think all of our teams have to play fast, to play slow, to play as I say, a football team on hardwood or a track team. You got to be able to do both if you're going to advance in that tournament. And I think that's one thing over the years we've done a pretty good job of. That's what I have trouble with those teams. We can't smash mouth Purdue, because it ain't going to work. We couldn't be as physical as we wanted to. And Maryland was smaller last year. Their guards, I thought, were tougher, their wings. So scouting report is, I don't know if we won a game against either team. So why the hell did you ask me that question in the middle of the summer, Andy?
All right, well, we got plenty of time in the fall to dissect the teams itself. So I appreciate your time here late in the summer. The biggest plus of this transition COVID time is I hope what this means is you actually see me in person. So maybe that isn't a plus. But anyway, so hopefully that will happen in the fall and the winter. Appreciate all of you. Enjoy the rest of your brief time before you dive back into these teams. Thank you, everyone.